why does it feel like you can't go anywhere online without the vibes being actually terrible? Like, it seems like it doesn't matter what platform you're on, whether you're looking for it or not, actually both on and offline, that it feels like we're being inundated with just the most negative, most dramatized, clickbaity, and mean-spirited content discourse people, headlines, information, whatever, what have you, that just keep bringing the vibes lower and lower. Well, I hate to say it, since you clicked on this video, you got. And let's talk about it. Why does everything seem so negative right now? Hey guys, what's up? It's Imurgency and welcome back to my channel. And today it's time to talk about why everything seems so negative and doom and gloom, and that you gotta watch over your back for monitoring spirits, a loss of rights, who's gonna be the boys, pop store propaganda. Oh my God, is this upcoming rapper actually a mean girl? A rigmarole that's going to be thrown at you at a moment's notice. Well, yes, my friends, this could have something to do with the way that our country has been descending into the cesspool of what it is, and the general state of the world that has been and will continue to be covered. But more specifically today, what we're going to talk about when it comes to the rise in negativity both on and offline is going to have more to do with the concept of negativity itself and the overall concept of how negativity has hijacked all of our minds to actually make us want it and crave it and ignore everything but that. This is a conversation that I feel like a lot of us have been thinking about, especially over the past couple of months. And I know a lot of you have been having it in my comment section about my recent videos, because I have been guilty of covering things that have not been the lightest and brightest or most life-filling. And I think that it's time to dissect why that is, why things do feel so bleak. I don't think bleak is the word, but just generally so negative, sensational, and almost doomerist in a sense. So in this video, we're gonna get to the bottom of this and take it beyond simply just like the internet stuff, getting into things like negativity bias, dissecting the cultural turn on positivity, and getting real about the fact that, like, we say that we want to see more positive and light things in our media and in our lives, but in collective action, that's not necessarily seen to be the case. We're also gonna get into things like negativity and care fatigue, as well as a trend that we've been seeing both on and offline of meanness becoming more so normalized and niceness kind of going out of style. Talking about things like nonchalance and some high profile mean girl situations that have sparked public conversation recently with things like the doechii gala incident. We have a lot to get into, so sit back, grab a snack, or if you're already eating a meal right now, because let's be real, commentary and video essays are best served with a little snack, a little bite, a little meal. So dig in, I dare you. Also, if you're new here, hi, I'm Rumi, nice to meet you. If you like content like this, you should definitely subscribe, because we're almost at 300K and we do need that expeditiously. And if you're already subscribed, shout out to you. You can leave a like on this video, because that helps out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. You can follow me on my socials at Imurgency on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, because I'll be posting all the time on there. But let's get into talking about negativity bias. So it's no secret that news headlines, crazy TikTok intros, and clearly YouTube titles and thumbnails tend to skew a little more sensational, a little bit more dramatic, negative sometimes, doomerist oftentimes. And by and large, that does seem to work. Like I said it earlier in this video, you chose to watch this one because you were emotionally pulled one way or another by the title and thumbnail. Not to clock you, but it's true. But what is it about these negative leaning news headlines and thumbnails that makes them so much more clickable? Why do our little brains inch closer and closer towards doomerism? Well, lucky for you, it's been studied before, and it has something to do with a little thing called negativity bias. Now you may be asking yourself, Rumi, what do you mean I have a negativity bias? That sounds like a K-pop thing. And to that I say, well, not quite. Negativity bias is our propensity as humans to focus more so on the negative than the positive. Not only that, we as humans also tend to feel the negative events more so than the positive ones. And if that doesn't sound good enough to you, according to Very Well Minded, the negativity bias is our tendency to not only register negative stimuli more readily, but to dwell on those events, also known as positive-negative asymmetry. This negativity bias means that we feel the sting of a rebuke more powerfully than we do the joy of praise. It's like essentially when you give a presentation at school or something and you have like 20 people tell you that you did a great job, but like maybe one person was like, oh, you kind of flopped. You're going to think about that one person saying you flopped more so than the 20 people saying that you did an amazing job, because we tend to select and hyper-focus on negativity. The effect causes us to remember traumatic events better than positive ones, recall insults better than praise, make our decisions based more on negative information than positive data, and to learn more from negative experiences than positive ones. Again, it's why we harp more on negative feedback than positive feedback. And from an evolutionary standpoint, this makes sense. Our brains were initially hardwired to keep us safe and alive. Clock how we did not say happy. Evolutionarily, it was important for our brains to detect threats, to detect danger when being attacked by large predators in the wild, by remembering that danger so that we don't make the same mistake or accidentally cozy up too closely to a snake or a fire or whatever was going on back then. But unfortunately, shout out evolution, nowadays our bodies can't necessarily distinguish the difference between maybe a bear attack and perhaps like a mean comment you might get on one of your TikToks. There was actually a study done back in 2013 that specifically took a look at infants to see if they engage with all social information equally or not. And interestingly, not surprisingly, what they found was that infants attended more to negative information, potentially confirming that this mindset has an evolutionary purpose at least. Now enough talk about babies. Now let's look at a study that specifically talks about news headlines and seeing how negativity bias works in our digital age of online news. Now, journalists have intuitively known for a while that negativity does sell, with a common phrase in journalism being, if it bleeds, which is a lot. And unfortunately, this is being backed up by some actual research in a study done by Nature Behavior Human. And using a publicly available dataset from Upworthy, the researchers were able to deduce that headlines with more negative terminology got more clicks than the positive ones, using real-world clicks and examples. And while that's more academic, you also have these social media viral gurus saying all the time that content that makes you feel something more powerful, whether that be positive or negative, is more likely to go viral, and that virality is shaped by our emotions. And while you can get this effect by swinging either positive or negative, with the current news cycle that we're living in the seemingly never-ending stream of unprecedented events and times, that negative is a lot easier to make content out of. And a quote from the study, content that evokes high arousal, positive awe, or negative anger or anxiety emotions is more viral. Content that evokes low arousal or deactivating emotions, like sadness, is less viral. So now we know why rage baiting works, unfortunately. And on the topic of rage baiting, you're actually more likely to share content that makes you upset. Like, think about all the accounts on Twitter that post rage baiting clips or clips that piss them off, whether that be political, stand culture, or like those weird videos where it like ends in an unsatisfying way, where it was just like so close from ending satisfyingly. Yeah, those. The ones that really piss you off, you're more likely to share those, and those are more likely to go viral for sure. We see that all the time on social media. And it's really sad because all the news and headlines that have been going on right now are really made to get reactions out of you. They're truly made to be polarizing and oftentimes very biased, which is actually why I'm happy to talk about this video's sponsor, Straight Arrow News. Okay, so picture this. Big news breaks and you're scrambling all around the internet to try and find all the details of the story you can get. In your frenzy for information, you're coming across early reporting that at the time you're unaware is extremely biased and potentially untrue or misinformed. You then go and share those sources of information with your friends, followers, and your general community, thinking that reporting is true and giving the whole story, only for you to then come across as reciting biased talking points and like you really don't know what you're talking about. I know, very spooky and unfortunately a very real occurrence. It's just like what we've been talking about in this video. We live in a world where the news and media we consume is increasingly more negative and oftentimes has unreported or undisclosed biases, which is why I'm so happy for this video's sponsor and why I've been using Straight Arrow News, because it's here to empower you with unbiased, fact-checked journalism that you can rely on. In such polarizing times like we live in right now, as we've talked about in this video so far, sensationalized and emotionally moving or biased reporting is rampant in journalism right now. But Straight Arrow News cuts through the noise with nonpartisan, honest reporting. They've actually been certified in their balanced reporting. And the best part of it all is that Straight Arrow News is completely free. And if you want to get started and check them out, you can download the Straight Arrow News app or click the link in my description at san.com/Imurgency. And when you visit, you're not just helping me, you're also taking advantage of a better way to get your news. Thanks so much Straight Arrow News for sponsoring this section of the video. Let's get back into talking about some media negativity. But getting more into the negativity selling of it all, like I could speak personally even for my videos, like it's night and day performance-wise when it comes to titling and thumbnailing my videos. Like, not to break the fourth wall, but the ones that are more dramatic, more negative, and more emotionally gripping do perform a lot better than the ones that are more lukewarm, or like one-to-one realistic representations of what's going on, despite the information in the video being the same. I'm sure all the creators watching this know this, but like as a watcher, creators actually have the option to like test thumbnails against each other. It's like why you see YouTubers switch up their thumbnails so much, because YouTube actually has a feature where you can upload 3 different thumbnails to test and see which one most people really click on. And oftentimes for me, I will have like 3 different ones having varying levels of drama, negativity, or positivity. And you know what? Time and time again, the one that performs the best is the one that is more so negative or more so sensational. And when it comes to things like negativity, it truly isn't anyone's fault. Our brains have been hardwired like this for centuries to keep us alive, and every single human is wired like this. It's natural. Like, negativity bias has its purpose, and should these companies and algorithms have been allowed to really profit off of that for the sake of engagement? No. But we're here, and I think where we should go next from this is trying to figure out whether there are ways to reframe, or if we are just doomed doomed to repeat this cycle of negativity, which is not the case. It's not easy, but there are ways to retrain your brain to reframe your thinking. Your brain's a muscle after all. You just gotta work at it. And there are tons of great resources online where you can learn to do that. That's not the sake of this video per se, but if you're ready for that journey, it's there. Now let's talk about the truth. No one cares about positivity. And this has been a thing that has been the case for a while, but I think more recently there has been this wide scale turn on positivity that I do think is really interesting. Like, do you personally remember when the culture turned on positivity? And like at the time, it was like low-key kind of necessary to an extent. Like a true key player in the conversation around like the downfall of positivity, I guess, was the rise in the use of the term toxic positivity. And this isn't to say that they're one and the same. Toxic positivity and regular positivity are completely different things and very important to distinguish. But like most terms on the internet, the terms began to get very generalized and eventually lost their meaning. And it's very possible that both that and how increasingly mainstream it was just to be like outwardly negative really did shift the culture in that way. And for those that weren't there for toxic positivity, or like toxic positivity is like a new term. Toxic positivity is the belief that people should maintain a positive mindset no matter how dire or difficult the situation is. While there are benefits to being optimistic and engaging in positive thinking, toxic positivity rejects all difficult emotions in favor of a cheerful and often falsely positive facade. Toxic positivity was big pre-pandemic when it came to things like mental health, with a lot of campaigns you're okaying the depression away, like big general sweeping things of like, make sure to smile today, or like ignoring the very real negative emotions that come with living sometimes and just one for one replacing them for positive ones, which just isn't the way to go. And because of that, the term toxic positivity really began gaining traction in 2020 during the pandemic. People were done pretending to be positive, like there was not be positive about, let's be real. And that was okay. There was a big general awakening happening. We could not toxic positivity our way out of a pandemic. And doing that was just revealing and amplifying all of the cracks that we had going on in our society at the time. But during that time, there were also many instances where people would dogpile or hate post for seemingly like no good reason. If you remember that era, there were just so many non-issue issues, so many controversies that just popped up during the time where people were just ready to jump for nothing. Like we went from a really toxic positive society to a hyper negative call out culture, being quick to call something problematic or insensitive, when in reality a lot of the things were not as bad and did come across as a little chronically online in a derogatory way. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that in like a grifty kind of way, like, oh, we couldn't say anything back then. Like, no, that's not the vibe. A lot of things did happen in 2020 that rightfully deserve the call outs and the cancellations of it all. I'm talking more so about the frivolous controversies where we look back and like, oh, that was kind of unserious. But to be real, in the real world, things are really negative, whether that be culturally, socially, or politically. Things are hard, things are bad, and it's hard to see what there is to be positive about oftentimes. And I think that that is a very large contributor to the rise of negativity that we're just seeing both on and offline. And unfortunately, us being inundated with so much negativity, so much doom and gloom to an overwhelming extent can oftentimes lead us to a pseudo state of paralysis. And this is the part of the video where we talk about care fatigue. It's no secret that we're going through some tough times, to put it lightly, whether that be evil tech billionaires, late stage capitalism, the peeling back of our human rights, the climate crisis of it all, everything that just feels so much bigger than ourselves. And I'm sure me just going down that list did give you a little bit of anxiety, and I'm sorry for that, but it's where we are. And it's also almost as if that feeling of having things be bigger than us is the whole point. There is always something to care about. Just when you think things couldn't get worse or more horrid, they do, day in and day out. And this feeling of overwhelm, whether intentional or not, is actually a tactic by the powers that be to overwhelm people to not do anything. It's the whole thing of like, if there's too many things to care about, it's easier to just do nothing at all. And if everything is so bad and scary and negative, then it feels too big to do anything about it, which leads to a feeling of learned helplessness and impotence. Like it really does feel easier to just throw our hands up and say, hey, what's gonna happen is what's gonna happen. I can't really do anything about it. It's beyond me. Rather than actually finding and acknowledging ways to change and get involved to promote that change. I think oftentimes when we think about changing the world, we think really macro and forget oftentimes we can actually make very tangible changes in a small or local way. And stepping away from the news of it all, we can also extend this way of thinking to the way that we consume content. One of the major things being doom scrolling. While I feel like doom scrolling now has sort of been co-opted to just mean like endlessly scrolling online, its official definition is scrolling or searching through negative content that does not make us feel very good. Again, not our fault. There is a plethora of negative content. And again, Sorry for being a part of that. And negative confirmation bias makes us search for it. We feel bad about the state of the world and look up things to confirm this, which leaves us constantly feeling anxious, angry, or sad. According to an article from Harvard Health, in the wake of the pandemic, doom scrolling's mental health effects have been examined more extensively. An April 2023 research review published in Applied Research in Quality of Life analyzed 3 separate studies involving a total of about 1,200 adults, suggesting that doom scrolling is linked to worse mental well-being and life satisfaction. And in an August 2024 study of about 800 adults, suggests that doom scrolling evokes greater levels of existential anxiety, which is a feeling of dread or panic that arises when we confront the limitations of our existence. And you may be saying, yeah, we knew this, doom scrolling is bad, but it's just nice to have like some actual evidence to back it up. And interestingly, or scarily enough, the article also mentions this thing called popcorn brain, which is apparently when we spend too much time online, and it's the real biological phenomenon of feeling your brain is popping because you're overstimulated online, which then makes it hard to engage with the real world, which moves at a much slower pace. And my researcher added a little note to this saying that like she's felt this before, and I've definitely felt it before too, like doom scrolling for too long and then going back to the real world, I'm like kind of stuck. Like nothing feels right, nothing feels real, like I feel really overstimulated. And like coming from scrolling to something super happy to super sad to super triggering to just generally catastrophic and then going back to the real world where everything feels normal is a mind. And it's crazy that that's an actual biological effect. And all this negativity doesn't even have to be about the state of the world. Like you can look interpersonally with things like our trend cycles leading negative. You have things like can I be mean for a sec TikToks, negative leading story times about things like cheating or doing someone dirty doing well, rage bait content, and those 500-part series that keep us locked in and engaged about things that are usually pretty traumatizing or just generally negative. Not to say that they shouldn't keep making them, because definitely locked in, definitely sat, and for sure scrolling through all the tea, but again, negative. And we see this normalization of negativity impact us on social media all the time. Well, more so the care fatigue from the burnout of negativity, with things like the rise of nonchalance. It's everyone's favorite buzzword that goes in and out of style for the quality they want or don't want in a partner. A lot of people want the cool, mysterious type. And while there has been a changing in sentiment around nonchalance, with a lot of people saying, like, no, I actually don't want a nonchalant man or woman. I actually want some chalance. I want some emotion. I want some passion. Are you ready for that? Because having chalance means you have to be unafraid to go forward and show that of yourself. And as the person receiving the chalance, you have to be ready to receive all that and not deem it doing too much, sassy, or being down bad. And the chalance of it all has really been seen as something that is not necessarily cool. It's been seen as kind of cringe in the online dating world, which makes you really wonder, like, why does it seem so cool to like not care, to be aloof, and to be nonchalant? A lot of dating content on TikTok revolves around this art of detachment and not being super attached or really showing your hand or being super emotionally invested in a person, which I think is definitely more of an avoidant way to go about finding love. And I think a lot of that is why it's so hard to date or like get to know someone earnestly. See my Gen Z dating video that I've posted in the past. But it's cool to not care, to not be super connected, to be and to be kind of mean. There's like this super cool persona that a lot of people put on online where the content that they make kind of makes you feel like people are making plans in front of you, but like aren't going to invite you to the plans. That content verticals that are not just negative, but are just straight up mean. And people in droves eat it up as being like iconic or like a serve, or people that are seeing it as mean just don't get the joke or can't take a joke. And to that I say, that's a case by case basis, but I think it is important to understand and be careful about what we normalize. And it's no secret, people love to hate on the internet. It's been there since the internet's inception. We've talked about this a couple times on this channel, but one thing that's interesting that connects this love to hate on the internet with is how we use that to then go on and react to things that are controversial online. And more so how quick we are to judge, dogpile, and turn on people based on different sets of information. Really getting into why do opinions on the internet just seem so severe and outlandish. It really does all connect to the negativity stuff. Like one major example of all this, where like the TikTok, Twitter, online court of opinion veers severely negative and almost punitive, had to do with the recent clip of doechii at the Met Gala yelling at her staff, and like how from that 50-second clip people had think pieces about how doechii is this mean girl, she's rude, hard to work with, terrible to her people, creates a hostile work environment, whatever would have you allegations people have from this lady from a 50-second clip, which for one I think is wild because prior to, doechii has been having an incredible year and long deserved come up after winning Grammys, making appearances on stages, popping up for different shows, walking different fashion shows, the Met Gala and the like really just being that girl, and all the while showing that she really cares about her fans, cares about the people around her, and is just a positive light right spirit. Having the track record of having a good character prior to and through her skyrocket to stardom. And prior to May 5th, most people were on the doechii train. She has incredible talent, she's super personal in her interviews, and just really positive and kind in all of her fan interactions. Which is why it was so wild to see the stark contrast and immediate flip on doechii after that clip, where it's clear that she's in a very high stress environment for the first time, and the girl is stressed out and asking for some umbrellas. Like, it's clear that she would freak out. And I think a lot of times, especially in this situation, when we want to talk about harping on negativity and having an exponential reaction to something. For one, people were painting out that video like she personally cursed out every single member of her staff and said the most vile and despicable things. But if you watch the video, it's not that bad. And two, when we want to talk about giving people the benefit of the doubt and not being super punitive and like seeing how we would react in these situations, you can't say that you haven't been in a situation where you've been stressed out and you lash out. Like, just because in her moment of being stressed and lashing out, she had every camera on the world and on her, doesn't make it super different from when you're overstimulated or stressed and lash out at a friend, mom, coworker, whatever. Was it the kindest way for her to come across? No, but it wasn't a career death sentence like a lot of people are making it out to be, and it wasn't the rudest thing someone has said on a carpet on camera by any means. Now you may be thinking, what does this have to do with the video? For one, I'm not calling doechii a mean girl, but I just want us to notice how it only took one moment for people to immediately turn and unleash everything that they unleashed onto her. We took a very human moment and took one instance of it to shape our entire opinion around a person, despite the abundance of evidence prior showing the positive. You see the negativity bias effect here. You got what I'm trying to lay down? The punitive system of the court of TikTok time and time again shows that we allow negative news, negative moments, negative stimuli to inform and shift the entirety of our opinions in the blink of an eye. And I think that that's something we should definitely pay attention to and decide whether or not we want to commit to that. And of course, again, disclaimer, like when I say this, I don't mean for things that are egregious and are long-lasting tells of hidden behavior. I'm just talking about in examples where like someone will do one thing bad out of a whole career being good, and then all of a sudden they are bad. And again, that never applies to. But in all the other cases, I think we should apply a little bit more nuance before we jump and go gung-ho, swaying our opinion for how we feel about people, whether that be a celebrity or not. Now I want to wrap this video up by talking about something positive, talking about the power of niceness and kindness and where we can go from here. This isn't me telling you that you should let people walk all over you. You should not do that at all. In fact, stand with an iron fist. I was about to say iron lung, not that. Iron fist will do. But like, have you ever noticed that like the small interactions that you have where you just lead with positivity, lead with niceness, usually end up either sticking with you or improving your day? Like if someone compliments your outfit, holds the door open for you, or you just have a nice interaction with a stranger. Like, not saying that you should overextend yourself, bend over backwards, do some crazy flips and tricks on a crazy style. But if you have it in you and it feels genuine and safe, why not lead with little positivity? Why not be nice? Why not extend that grace? Like, it's not going to change all the world's problems because you hold the door open for someone, but like, let's be kind and let's try to lead with a little bit more positivity. My researcher added a little bit here where she says that she's worked in a lot of customer service jobs in the past, and she's always been more inclined to help out people that came in with a good attitude and were more positive and nice, rather than someone that came in entitled or rude or whatever would have you. Like, you're not going to get help that way. And I think that that's a metaphor for life. Lead with some positivity and try and move in that way. Are things inherently more negative right now? Well, yeah, but also it may just be that our brains are focusing more so on the negative than the positive. Specifically when it comes to things that are going on in the political economic state of the world right now, despite all the negative headlines that get all the airtime, there are a lot of groups doing the work on the ground right now to combat all the negative things that we're seeing. There are a bunch of fights going on in the courts right now to try and protect people's civil liberties and human rights that aren't getting the airtime, but doesn't mean that they're not happening. There is a lot of good still happening. There is a lot of positive still happening if you go and look for it. So whether that be political, whether that be social, or interpersonal, it's important that we're intentional about the energy that we are moving towards and emitting ourselves. And changing those behaviors isn't going to happen overnight. It's incremental. But it's important to take those little steps towards the change that you want to see in the content that you consume and in the world that we live in. And in the meantime, let's just monitor the content that we do consume that is negative and the rates at which we're doing that so we don't get popcorn brain or increase our anxiety levels to more than they already are. But yeah, that's going to be the video, y'all. I know that kind of ended in a very kumbaya, maybe talks a positive way. But now I want to turn the mic over to you and hear what you think. Have you been feeling this rising negativity? And if so, what have you been doing to counteract that, if anything at all? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, if you're new, then definitely subscribe, leave a like on this video, and follow me on my socials on Imurgency on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Special shout out again to this video's sponsor, Straight Arrow News. And other than that, y'all, thanks again for watching. I've been Imurgency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.